What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you 5 of my favorite indie titles that I have played. As we are moving into a quieter part of the year for game releases, I've been looking at older things I just personally enjoyed a lot, trying to share them with people, spread some awareness, so to speak. Especially with the Steam Summer Sale kicking off, I believe the day this video goes live, actually. And while tomorrow I should have a video talking about some really good deals and everything, for today I just wanted to share some of my favorite indies. All of which are games I have played and reviewed if you'd like some more information on them than what I cover here. But with that said, let's dive into the rest of this video. Starting out with number 1, we have Black Geyser, an indie CRPG from developer Grape Ocean Technologies, and this particular title sees us taking on the Kingdom of Izilmereld, which is facing the onset of a curse of greed. This game is inspired by the likes of Baldur's Gate 1, but as opposed to the D&D franchise, we are using a unique system that involves building a character out from several different classes to choose from, many of which can be multi-classed into some truly interesting combinations, but ultimately, Black Geyser sees us fighting off this curse of greed, or, in some cases, just kind of accepting it. As we perform certain actions throughout the realm, make certain decisions, or simply take the loot, so to speak, from our various quest rewards, we are contributing to a world greed level. And as this level rises, it will have impacts on the gameplay, such as the world falling into chaos, as the citizenry succumbs to the curse, which is an interesting dynamic on the way you choose to approach questing and the choices themselves. Ultimately though, Black Geyser is a pretty cool game. It has a lot of the hallmarks of the great older CRPGs, and while I would say it doesn't really stand toe-to-toe with any of them, it's still a great game in that respect with a lot to offer. And if you've already played many of the more well-known titles, let's say, this is a great one to check out. Next up on our list, though, we have Troubleshooter Abandoned Children. This is a TRPG that, while technically indie, is massive in its scope. If you like TRPGs, I really do consider this one a must-play. It's also seen an unprecedented amount of support since its initial release in 2020, but Troubleshooter sees us taking on the role of a sort of sanctioned vigilante group that solves all sorts of crime problems in the city of Valhalla, which is so rampant with crime that it is legal to form what is called a troubleshooter company to combat said crime. We obviously operate one such company, which we use to do just that. But, well, that's a simple enough premise. Everything about Troubleshooter has a remarkable amount of depth to it, especially for an indie title. There are a wild amount of systems and upgrades for each individual character. Some of the characters you will recruit actually have their entirely own upgrade paths, so to speak, with one of them able to train and recruit beasts you can find on missions. Another one is able to build drones and things out of robots, each of which has its own separate system entirely unique to them. And the devs are, to this day, still adding content to it, though I am led to believe they are almost done. And for all of those reasons, I personally have just a little shy of 200 hours in this game. It is very good. Moving right along to our third entry, however, we have UnderRail. UnderRail is a fantastic indie CRPG as well, but one that is known for being fairly difficult. And while I would say the game is very unforgiving, I don't think it is as unapproachable as a lot of people make it out to be sometimes. But it's a game that's not afraid to let you fail. And if you are willing to accept that and learn from those failures and figure out other ways to overcome a certain situation, what is and isn't viable, then UnderRail has a ton to offer you. And all of that is set with a very unique world, which, as the name might imply, is underground railway tunnels. Some post-apocalyptic event has happened up above on the actual surface of the planet, and everyone has since sort of receded into underground, which has since turned into its own set of worlds and communities all unto themselves. But from choices about how to build your character, how to approach various quests, alongside a surprisingly interesting story, makes for a really great indie CRPG with a lot of wonderful choice and consequence. And it doesn't potentially end there. Stygian Software, the developer, while technically done with UnderRail, is working on a follow-up of sorts, which is going to be a standalone campaign, is my understanding, that they are currently working on. But in the meantime, it's a great game and definitely worth checking out. That does bring us to number 4 on our list though, and this is Encased. Yet another CRPG on the list, because this is a list of my favorites, and my favorites tend to be CRPGs as it happens. But Encased is an interesting title, also post-apocalyptic, heavily inspired by the likes of Fallout. However, this one takes place in an alternative version of the 1970s, where an enormous artifact called the Dome has been found, and while people can enter the Dome, living things are not able to leave. So a company called Cronus sets up operations to hire people and send them in there, knowing that that's just going to be their life now. And all of this is going pretty well. They're finding all sorts of technology before ultimately something happens that turns the inside of the Dome into a bit of a apocalyptic situation. Contact with the outside world is lost, and at this point everyone is just trying to survive. And that, combined with a lot of meaningful choice and consequence, a lot of freedom to approach the campaign however you want, bringing a lot of fun to the table. I will say that Encased, for a game on a list of indies, is probably the most janky one of the bunch. It's definitely still a little rough around the edges, but its mix of technology and more supernatural forces combine to make something that I think is more interesting than its individual parts, which is why Encased still stands out in my memory so much. But either way, if you're a fan of Fallout 1 or 2, you should definitely try this one out for yourself. Now that does bring us to our final entry, however, and this one is Sands of Salzaar. A title that sees us brought to a desert landscape where we will be building up our own forces, troops, as we seek to potentially take over the desert, all against the backdrop of an invading force known as the Ifrit. We'll have to potentially make allies with everyone around or simply conquer them, all in an effort to build up the forces in order to combat this threat. How we do that is largely up to you. There's all sorts of diplomacy options, or you could simply use brute force or potentially coerce people into trade agreements. You have a variety of approaches, and that combined with a whole host of systems around how you start the campaign, with progress awarding you points that you can then spend on a new game that will give you all sorts of perks and bonuses available to you, which is cool enough by itself, but the game also features a variety of classes for your main character, many of which can give you a completely unique questline for the game specific to them, or even specific instances. For instance, the Sultan has a village that they have to look after, in addition to everything else going on. So there's a lot of really unique stuff to Sands of Salzaar that makes it a surprisingly robust game despite its relatively simple appearance. Though if any of that sounds confusing to you, a simple comparison would be it's very similar to Mountain Blade. That, however, is going to do it for this video. There have been 5 of my favorite indie titles. I certainly hope you enjoyed it. If you wind up checking any of them out, or if you're familiar with them, I'd love to hear your thoughts on them, or just in general any of your favorite indies. Always curious to hear about games I might not have heard about otherwise. With that said, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz, but regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. May you wander in wisdom, and have an amazing day.